Hello and welcome to GunCADemy. I'm Killer, and I don't believe in long-winded speeches. Making things easy. The ADD and the ADHD GunCAD slash designers out there, so I'm just going to jump right in. What we're talking about today is how to texture three-dimensional models. Specifically, we're not going to be using CAD, not going to be using F3D or step files. We're going to be using STLs. Method would likely work on other files, but the vast majority of what we all use right now is STL file. That's what I'll be teaching today. In keeping with my introduction and keeping things short, I'm going to jump right in. We're going to blow through the fastest version of texturing something, and we're going to throw that project away, and we're going to way down and go. So, uh, the first part, if you're one of those guys that likes to watch videos and you like to mute them and just see the menus, so blowing right through it, I'm just going to open up Blender. I have 4.0 installed. It worked on 4.2 the other day. Somebody else. You don't have to click on anything. Click out, zoom out, delete all the crap, find your STL. Port STL. I recommend going to wherever the file is, finding a file that would be conducive to texturing. So my file that can do texturing, do a bunch of things that don't make a lot of sense because I'm going to get all that in the second half of this video. End this out. So ready. So we're going to flip over edit mode and see how many polys we have. We do. We're going to go over to sculpt. Throw a remesh at it. I really recommend 0.17. I've done a lot down here with 100,000. Go over to edit mode. Way more. Out. Select mode. Select. Start doing the hard part, so to say, by hold clicking here, or you can that and go to. Just go find a lot of the pieces. Now, pay attention how I can see. I could actually zoom in and not select. Not actually select a couple things. Down shift, select other things. I'm not even like giving a fuck. Really quickly. I was close to that spot, right? Check the inside. Holding down shift so I don't accidentally click other things. Or to click over here for down shift. You can hit Control Z, get your previous options back. Grab a couple more items, and then we're gonna go to Select Faces. It's notice that got some rash missing. I feel like explaining so many things right now. Not going to because that's getting through it all. Starting to look pretty dang good. Now, Control plus on the numpad, getting out bigger by a little bit, out quite a bit more. You only just get those couple odds and ends pieces. I'm gonna hit Control minus on the numpad. It gets a little. And we'll do one more. I like the nice clean cutoff look. This will be up to you. To do. We'll see why here. So we're gonna go to this triangle, hit plus sign, name this hit assign. That way, if I have it there, and if I select exit the U key on my keyboard, yep, wait. I don't care how strong or fast your computer is. Part takes forever. Another part later that's gonna take even more forever. This one isn't the bad one. Bad one later. Expect your mouse to just like not do anything. You've clicked. Not bad. It's usually like 10. But don't go click happy. Don't like force it. even though a minute or two, it's just not worth the heartache. If that menu goes away, you're good to go. So get out of edit mode, go to object, fires, add one, place, add a new texture, switch it from local B, map, text group, name of the vertex group that we had, then go over to texture menu and find some textures. Any JPEGs, PNGs, bitmaps, any of them will work. I like to use Aztec. I don't know why. It just see that it immediately wraps around a texture. But it could have some problems. This right spot where my mouse is. Now, see pretty clearly that that's the rear rail pocket. And real bad time if I try to exit. So you'll want to tweak a couple things. The strength and mid-level are where I would recommend. Mid-level is best kept at 0. But if I go to that trouble spot and I pretty obviously just leave it at 0 and then adjust your texture how you want with your go internal mild as heck. Go ridiculous. Shouldn't and so worth mentioning that this and add a lot of material. You'll gain a little bit more. Makes thin questionable models. Once you're done here, your modifier and generate estimate, and you're going to type in the inverse or whatever 7, and I'm going to hit enter, and you're going to pay attention to this is right here. Enter, and the faces is 1,835,000. Right now, it's inverting the amount of remesh that we added to, minimizing the exact ratio started from. I don't know the reasoning. I can't explain it to you super well, but I can tell you with certainty that certain textures that I've done to this exact frame even at 400,000 ended up being smaller in megabytes than the original one exported. So click on that guy, file, export, STL, dump it on the desktop, call it Aztec. So, minimize this guy, check it out. Taking an STL, you've wrapped around textures. Track of the time, but I feel like that was less than 10 minutes, which is pretty cool. Yeah, take a look at this file size there. Yeah, we're looking at 29 megabytes, fully textured wraparound you. So that's my super fast, not giving good instructions version of texturing. There are so many more things to cover, but I thought to myself, if you could select mesh group in the Bamboo Studio for multicolor as quickly and easily as I was able, gotta be able in Blender. Hell, there is. So, as promised, we're gonna throw this away and we're gonna start over. This is going to be the for real. I'm gonna go into like real detail and be a teacher, be an educator, and like share what I know. Really sorry ahead of time about how slow this is gonna feel. Um, but I want to get everything out once because last time I did texturing class with the Out of Battery Live YouTube channel ended up being one of their highest viewed videos, and I got a ton of people hitting me up saying, "Hey, I went through your class, I went through your recording, came up with this list. Is this right?" And I was just trying to like be interviewed. I wasn't trying to teach a class. It was before GunCADemy even existed. So now that I am a teacher, and now that I do this frequently, and I teach classes in Academy, I have a bit more of a cadence down. Break some of that cadence, but extrovert. And again, for that, I apologize. Feel free to speed it up. You might end up having to do that. So I've just opened up Blender. I've made no customization, no plugins. I paid for nothing. If you click out and just don't open anything, start the file. Select all the default cameras, cubes, and lights, and hit delete. And then to around in Blender, you hold down Shift on your down the middle click on your mouse to move this, or go of Shift, mouse full wheel goes out. And honestly, I'm gonna try to get through this whole class. I use a space mouse so I can move around like this. But I'm gonna try to get through this whole class on keyboard and mouse. Give everybody. So I might be a little clunky, but here we go. In Blender, if you'll notice when you zoom out, you start to lose to see the background at all. Hit this little arrow in the top right tab and change render distance. I just add a 0. That's to hide that, you can drag this all the way over. Pops back. After that, bring your model in and start working. Worth mentioning, and I'll show this in CAD real fast. This model in particular, Block 26X, I CAD'd this. I designed this. I wanted to texture these parts. That being said, I intentionally had a flat surface fall off very a very steep degree comes to play when parsing flat faces. You don't have to use that, and I'll cover when you'll have to use it, why. But just know that if you want to crank out a 5-minute texture like I just did at the beginning, uh, with ease and have it look deep, having these little cutout valleys, step outs, or anything like that, they're gonna make your life better. So consider a model that has them or adding them to. That being said, we're gonna grab this one right now. And what you're going to see more often than not is your models coming in weird and your view being perspective and not orthographic. So to fix that, to make it orthographic, you click on any of these presets and make it flat. If you click off of it, it's no longer orthographic. It becomes. Hit the G key. I'm just moving my mouse. I'm not clicking anything. Tap the G key, grab. And if you click, it drops it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit out some. I'm going to R key state. You'll notice it starts rotating along the axis. So instead of trying to like eyeball it and get it correct, I'm just going to type in 90 and hit enter. 90, hit G on it, then right click it again, set your geometry. That way, if you need to rotate it again, rotates rather than from its origin. CAD software. So once this is like nice and relatively above the have it where you'd like it, then we have to switch over to the mesh portion of this. It's gotten to the point where I'm straight up I'm not even guessing anymore. Just go straight to sculpt, and I go straight to remesh, and I do 0.17. I've done the testing. It works for me. If you're making guns, I recommend 0.17. We are more often than not, we're a tier above the other printing and the other CAD. We need more strength. We need more. Um, because of that, 0.17 is probably going to work. Feel free to test out with more. My original texturing videos, I did 0.1. That is untenable. Trying to do today, please. Here's what I want to show you. Edit mode. Like a lot of faces, but in reality, faces are only 100,000. If you don't have this view down here, you can right click and you can hit the check boxes for faces is like the biggest one you want to know, and then VRAM, which hits about the is the second one. So know that we are at 101,700. If I were to try to place a texture here, be doing it on this big flat plane. We need more detail. So out of edit mode, mesh, I'm going to type in 0.1. Look down here at faces, not enter, sorry, 0.17, and then hit the remesh button. Watch face. I flip back over to edit. Takes a second, and it shows up all black like this. That's because it defaults to not showing you faces, it defaults to showing you vertexes. So right now it's on vertex select. Icon here, select. Then it becomes a bit more visible. Not great, but more visible. Zoom in, way more faces on which we can be applied. So what we have to do next is we have to select the textures, faces that we want to texture. So I'm going to open up our menu here so we can, buttons are called. A hold click on select box. I prefer lasso select. Have to, the other ones. It just ends up being one of the more multi you can have. You can use it for, and this is my favorite one, find a corner way up here, down, have a nice straight line along. That one was eyeballed, odd little jargon in there. And I'll show you. I can just covering, grab a straight. Anyway, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to grab a couple faces. Holding down shift so that I'm adding the selection. Whereas if I didn't hold down shift and it would get rid of Blender, you can hit control, turn all of your, that's part of your, select quite a few things here. I know from history, model doesn't populate now, but probably not going to have same idiosyncrasy. The angles I chose when I designed this, not very. You notice I'm not like being specific at all. Just grabbing, assuming that Blender had the same relative face selected studio had, clicking around and found some stuff, and I found select flat faces. Test and check, get exactly what I hoped it would do. Go find all of the flat face relative to them. See that once it stopped being flat, selecting. We'll also see that it has some. Right now, I need to have everything else highlighted. Keep in mind that there's a pocket here, dark part, that actually select if I highlighted it. Check inside if you see affecting, poking, see if that it does accidentally. When I zoom in, it goes safe there, but a couple more in here. All right. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Select flat face. Doing much better. One more time just to make sure we have everything that it thinks to do. But we're still going to have some missing rash here. There's a generic grab everything function that I found. Pretty cool. It's select. Gosh, can't even find it. Yeah, more, less, and more. It's control number pad plus. See me do that. We'll look at a couple things while I'm doing it. I want to try to get this part visible, all of these parts visible, while keeping an eye on the outer edge here. I hit control plus on my number pad. It just magically filled in everything, filled in most here. But here, a little bit of over. That overhang, while you would think that having more selected is better, actually not. Think about it. We're going to be applying textures. If you have a face that's off to the side here, trying to apply texture forwards rather than outward. So you need to make sure that you understand that it only knows what you tell it to do. Trying to be relative angling from this flat face to the next face down. Like we did control plus, control minus. 1, 2, and 3 times. We're going to go pretty overboard. We're going to have a nice big outline out here. We're going to take a look at it and see if anything's jumping out at us. This to me, that's annoying. Not bad. I'm going to hold down control instead of shift. Control held down. Deselect. That select. It's also annoying to me. I'd like nice and matched curvature perspective with the rest of the. That was with Control, but this now with Shift, I can add these. Nice uniform dispersal. Guy right here, guys, they highlight. That's relatively what we're going for here. You have to always question whether or not what you're, because sometimes 3 doesn't justify getting. What we have to do now is we have to assign all of these faces to what's called a vertex group. Vertex group, um, kind of a bad name. I just told you to stop selecting vertexes, start selecting faces, but it doesn't matter because vertexes are within those. I go to this triangle here, vertex groups. Assign. Name this here. I hit assign. That way, if I click out over here and do some stuff, click off that, and back out in the wild now. Hit select and grab all that stuff. So that's how you can do this with a bunch of different patches on the gun. You do one up here for a new version. You do one inside of this thing. It's up to you. If your gun has several different platforms, that's why you would want. So you'd want to do one for each vertex group. Go ahead and hit select on this guy. Make sure nothing else is sure. Click off. Select everything. Now for the waiting period. I hit the U key on my keyboard. I believe it's just E and unwrap. Hit U, like keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to hit unwrap. This takes a while. There's a good indicator here is when this is done, but it needs to unwrap that. You'll notice that I didn't have it selected, so it went select, U, unwrap. Now I've clicked it, and everything is frozen. Then you didn't go away like last time, and it's doing all the thinking. Basically, what's happening right now, analyzing angle, different face, turning this thing here to a nice, flat, rolled out piece, assigning a texture to. This gets really complex when you have a texture that wraps around the front and have it just like this, much more. So let's just get started from here, and then we'll go into some of the details of some. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get out of edit mode, object mode. We are ready to start applying these. Go to the wrench modifier menu, hit add modifier, go to form. You'll see that it immediately fucks with the whole model. The whole thing just popped out. That's super obvious. We're going to make a new texture. Our coordinates are going to be UV. Map is going to be map. Our direction, stay normal. Our vertex group would be the name of whatever vertex group you texture to. It's going to be grip. Rest of the gun returned to normal. Now only impacted desired. So as I mentioned earlier in the recording, rail pocket sticking out would be real bad news. If I were to export this right now, this would just we're going to do is we're going to drop that mid-level basically unimpacted. Can't really see anything happening without adding a texture to it. Add a texture. Texture, red and black checkered. Right? Hit open. You can select any picture, JPEG, any bitmap you want. Some of these I just made, like black and white ones. And they can be pretty nifty. Others are very clearly just images I Googled and dumped them in a free online pattern generator, which there are, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands out there. People needed to do them for school projects or what have you. So we're going to go ahead and grab this Hawaiian text. As we grab it, you can see that it immediately just dumps a texture on there that doesn't look half bad. Worth tweaking a bunch of different ways and knowing how you can tweak. But I thought about this, and the way I really want, because you've already gone through all the basic steps, so we don't rush through. I'm going to take a whole bunch of copies of this done. We're going to run through a bunch of different textures, why you choose menu option. So foremost, let's just tweak this one a little bit. Like it. I don't dislike this at all. But that wrench again, soften it up a little. The 3D printed, this would be functional, but it would be more of like a suggested imprint than a texture. Not super, not super conducive to. Now, what we'll probably want to do is, I'll show you the bad version. A negative strength, sucking it in. This can be really cool and functional. Feel bad for for pistol grips on pistols because you're just into your. Again, mind that doing this not negatively impacting any of the fatigue, but you are just performing conditions, making it an incredibly safe practice on almost anything. Selecting this one was selected correct. Of hanging out. Remember, this was with like was 2 or 3 different control minuses selection. You can barely tell that it's not going edge. Looks and feels edge to edge. And if you want to tinker with that, how many times you want, you'll notice that the holes being the pain point. You have them too. So, yeah, this one's ready to go. We're not going to start the decimation yet because I want to start fiddling around with all the different adjustment tools. So what we're going to do, out to about here, click it, hit Control C, Control V, G for grab like I did before. I could grab it, or I can hit a letter while I'm mid grab. I'm going to hit Y along the Y axis. Over here, some amount, click. So we're going to click back on the old, I call it this guy, him, JPEG out. We're going to go to this Aztec bit. Notice it came in nice and clean and wonderful because it contained all of the different settings that. Now, let's say, for example, that I want to do a high res. Instead of just leaving this one, we're going to go grab another one that we know is. Grab a high res. Grab a pretty Polyhaven texture. Polyhaven has a, some of these are um, let's I let's grab this guy. Rockwall. It's going to be pretty boring and flat until you add a little. It becomes ready to print, but maybe you don't want it to be that resolution. Maybe you liked the idea of the rock ball, but then you realize, you know what? Be way more. You don't want to achieve that grit by sucking it in and making aggressive texture like that and ruining the integrity of. No, have this be. Now, what you want to do is change your number under your texture menu again. Side of mapping, have a whole bunch of different options. I'm not going to cover all of them because they don't always apply. We'll touch them. We're not going to be edgy. Leave it on repeat and just increase. Go to from 1 to 2 on each. As you can see, it changes the number of times that going. Now we're getting into micro texture. Put a 5 on each. That's not even going to print that resolution. That's just going to be fuzzy. So probably super desirable for somebody or application. Probably really helpful. You don't have to sit there and type in a number, and you don't have to sit there and hit. Just grab this. Same with over here. Just grab it and drag. Do you like? That's fast. Another one. E B Y out. Name this one rock wall. This guy. Make a new texture. Hit texture icon and hit. I'm gonna grab something a bit more challenging. You know the one above here is gonna be beam. Well, is also from Polyhaven. Very, very useful for a traditional wrapped string style grip. Hit open. Notice that it comes in vertically and not at all good. Go ahead and move this up to like a 4. Yeah, I guess that's printable and looks okay, but it's not what you want out of a grip. I'm gonna flip the axis here, change the way that with that we can start doing a bit more. Now, sticking out a little bit much for my liking. That strength. Actually, we're gonna bring it down too much. Get our eyes on that rail pocket, then bring it forward. That one would work. A little small. Beats. And we're going to bring those down a little bit. Now, because this is a horizontal texture, it doesn't matter how many ads are. It can help it look better if it's bigger. So, like if I come down to 2, you'll notice that when I add the Y's up, I'll start to like add some of that little texture. It's ridiculous. But down to 1, really not bad. And with something as small as this, keep in mind this is a Glock 2019 size grip. That's not very many. Not very. 3 would be pretty small. 4 would be tiny. So something to consider. Probably leave this one at 3. On to the next. We'll name this one out. Control G Y. Click out. Out. So accidentally editing the old. Click the new one. Then we're going to find some new textures. Messing with for the setting. Go with one of these itty bitty. Look at that. This one is ridiculous small of an image. You can get a nice little preview of it. What I do is you'll start messing value quite a bit. Now, good print, a lot to ask. Want to do? Notice a trending pattern here of get the texture in, placed, mess with your strength. This guy in particular, probably going to be a positive level, a mid. I'm going to drag it in a little tiny bit. Have that rail exposed. Up. Then what we're going to do negative with. Negative with ignores the midplane almost entirely. Additive. Want to do something like this, you have to make sure if you had any thin spots, texture positive be on of where cheat real fast. Use my show you what's going on here. Act with no bueno. So getting off the space mouse, I'm going to take this. And remember, this is the high mid level, and I'm all pretty risky. What I'm going to have to do is we'll bring the level down a little bit. Then that one's going to cut into it. That one's going to level to 0. As long as we have a positive, staying exactly at should make a decent amount of sense. Now, let's get into some of the more niche edit this. Diamond plate, I guess. I'm gonna copy this guy out. BGY. I'm gonna do texture. I'm going to grab a nice see an example why you don't grab ball is at that's big flip pen. That one's really textured. I want to try to find one a little bit bigger than that, but I really have one. What you do is you can go to your crop menu, play with just your minimum. Reasons to do maximum, I'm sure. I haven't come across minimums. Are actually X and Y, one direction. Now take a look at it. Now, if you want to go like crazy, make it huge, fine, because repeats will now be a bit more meaningful because you've cropped the right. I'm gonna name it and move on to another one. Why I don't like it, but I control G Y out and okay. So a couple other options side of the us probably apply to that are trying to apply textures across multiple. And it's not extend was some weird version of allowing it to fall off. I think it was when we went negative. Yeah, there it is. Flip when you go negative, you have the ability to like not have it repeat. You can just up. So same could be said for Y. So I recommend repeat texturing, but I would be show you. You're gonna find that between maximum, sorry, minimum XY as a flip axis and the wrench strength and mid-level assessment. You don't need a space mouse to see the annoying part that I wanted to show you guys. If you hit Shift, which is E to the left of the pad, you get a first WASD. I'm moving around right now, and you can barely see it because it's the lowest level. Down this W, start scrolling my mouse wheel up, changes rate at which W key up a little bit. Notice that now I'm starting to move video game. WASD allows around rather than the pad movement. The Q key down and the E goes up. Scrolling up and down changes your no to see what I saw with this. Go in here. Hop in. monitor, that is how you would do that analysis act. Well, it's a great way to make some more finite select. To get out of that, that covers most of it. Now for a much more annoying one. Go ahead and delete this. We're going to import a model. It was a massive pain to texture. I still don't necessarily love the way it looks, but it's just because of the oddness of the design rather than Paragon 19. Got some interesting spots on it. Make it challenging. Not sure. Okay, well, that will go. There it is. Okay, G to move. Hidden app by clicking right click geometry. But when I go to R, hitting it to yourself, I'm going to rotate it. Click R minus 9. Hit enter. Put the G key to move it. Exact same thing. Aligned with the. Doesn't need to be aligned. So same thing as before. If you take a look at this guy, don't see how many faces hit because. So just keep an eye on the fact that we have 9 million. Go to edit mode, take a look at it, and obviously texture. So default mode, mesh, 0.1. Keeping an eye on this 70,000 faces right now for this guy. Mesh button. How many it jumps up? 7. Start over, selecting a new vertex group. Basically just a fancy way of select our faces. This design in particular, not have an easy way about it. I have one up here, I have one down here, I have one in the middle. This one goes all the way up around the edges. Not a good time. So, what we'll do is we're going to select a few of them by making sure that we're on lasso. Select quite a few like that. You'll notice that whenever you wrap a selection around a curve, it takes quite a bit longer to select. That is, it knows that they're there, but it's going relative to perspective. Ever do it like that? Expect for it to have that little lag, that little pad, because it's trying to figure out how to. So if you want it to go faster, I wanted it to go right up on it and just rather than wrap it around. Should be fine. That face. And good job. Not really getting back to what I taught you earlier. Grab here. Yep. This is one of the things that Arms was talking about. Was he was sitting here manually? I think he was time. He was admittedly new to Blender, which is fine. I think that he was using the select box one. Not fun at all. Message about he came up with. Please feel free, and he will happily carve out some time. How I was able to save him some time and So as we did before, selecting some of this press real fast, hit Control Plus on the pad, about, auto expand, dislike anything. I like what I'm looking at, but I want to because I want else looks pretty. Control minus and Control minus again. I want to repeat what I said earlier. Better to have it away from these. So you're going to have it knocked all the way out to the edge here. You are more than welcome to hit Control Plus, bring it a little bit closer, plus around those. If you would like to, absolutely grab like the select circle, and you can hold down Control, manually start cutting away that circle. But you'll notice the parts that I just went around the curve. You're gonna have to do that and then rotate it in, down Control times. Like it's not a good science, especially because you don't really want textures running pins through them, nuts and bolts through them, parts through them. You don't want to be messy. So if you want to put bolts, pausing so that the you have this guy, make sure to add it to a vertex group. We're moving on. Add right, enter on a sign. Out of that. Now for the more annoying one, the more hard parts that I had to teach myself, which was how to do correct wraparound. Involves using called C, not fun. What you have to do is before you make a vertex group, before you make any selection, make your apply them to the model. What I'm gonna do box, nice flat, and I have to decide where I want my themes to be. Because if you have a texture sitting right here, like say it's a circular texture, you want to repeat it a whole bunch of different. It's not mathematically perfect. Not gonna fit, right? It's just not gonna sit there and parse it, volumetrically apply it every single thing. You're gonna have some cutoffs. How do we minimize that? Minimize that by telling it exactly where. I'm tempted to show you what, you know what, we're going to do it. I'm going to show you what it looks like without seams, why it's bad, and we're going to waste a little bit of time. I have to do an unwrap and undo it, but you need to see what a bad version looks like to know when it's approved. To give you a preface here, we want this whole ring around the bottom, as well as that ring's connected to the top, out to this guy. So not going to play nice. So let's go ahead and let's do the bad select. Go ahead and just click, click. Again, rounding too many corners. Thought that I was small enough. I also may flip lassos. You'll also notice keeping an eye on your memory and your RAM will indicate whether or not taxing your 7 out of 12. I should be good, but this one also might just be correct. We're going to go to select, linked, flat faces, how much we can. Um, just to give you guys a background here, I do have a pretty dang beefy computer. It's newer i9 12th gen, the GTX 40 Ti. So, and 64 gigs of RAM. So, like, still causing me problems. Be aware, Blender will ask the most possible hardware you, not just the model you chose, just your computer. Blender just is that. Again, linked faces, starting to really get close. Okay, and okay, looking good. So this part is very small and very annoying. See what happens. I hit on faces. Getting pretty dang close. Select that. I'm gonna flip back over to time. We're gonna go ahead and manually click in and grab all the front. Might end up with this auto selects really aren't grabbing what I want them to. You know, I hate to say it this way, but like, know your audience, know your model. Understand what is and is because you want it to be possible. Doesn't all got it pretty close. Of that missing plus, let it auto expand out everywhere. Again, it does a job of just filling it all. Very wary of that over part there. Take a look down here. Missed any tiny piece. Hit Control minus. Hit Control minus. Get in nice and tight. Small. That part. You know what? We're gonna let it run. Keeping in mind, I have not done a seam at all. This is an example of bad. I hit vertex group. I name it wrap around. Hit enter. Hit assign. When I click off, select is. Now again, the slow part, you unwrap, wait for that menu to display. That means that you got done process trying to figure it out. Is I know that this is a failure. I know that this one is a failure. Because without that big weeping block. I found out how to diagnose that. I found out how you can use it. But I need you to see first what bad looks like, and I'll show you diagnose. So our normal steps: fire, add, just choose an example. Grabs everything. Map to you map. Text group, wrap around. That is what happens. Wrap around without a seam. No idea what it's doing. All yeah, it's select everything and hit H. It hides it. Okay, let's get it. That is. What happens when we start trying to modify? What happens when we start trying to fix? Gut reactions to go to texture and start messing with down to 5 tab 5 and completely useless. What if I start trying to mess with it? Not getting anywhere. Wrap around what's so this is call it a failure of an application texture. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hit do. We're gonna get we did the hide objects back all the way out to there. Yeah, so when I messed with that, messed with it. I want to fix that. If we want to keep that, I want to make a new one. So what we'll do, make a, just delete all the work, make sure that we don't accidentally try to a bad design. We're gonna hit this little X right here to entire display. Unfortunately, I have to go into edit mode. I'm gonna go into that face select, go to vertex select, just entire thing. Wrap around. We are using the unwrap section, everything. Keep the right one, but this one stand where it's function. So flip over to select box. Hide these other things again. So flowings. I've found that it's best to grab the smallest spot where you know it's okay. Have your wraparound. Best. Straight line select. Inside where you intend on texturing. Texturing up here. If you don't on texturing, actually really simple. When you get this far, when you have that selected and you know that you want to be, go to mesh, UV, mark seam. Well, it's orange when it's selected. Click off of it. That's your seam. Seams affect different parts of the. So you'll have to do some practice. You have to understand what your model's doing, to make it work. This guy, for example, a good seam would be. Actually, we can. Again, we're going to take a look at it, make sure we don't accidentally go too far. If you go too far, mark a seam too far, it will attempt to have a ripple effect. If that thing comes out here, it's telling the seam that this 90 degree is to be considered with the texture you're using. My methodology of control minus minus, bring that vertex selection. I'm not going to run that risk. Leave it fully selected to the interior. That seam is going to just fuck everything up. Make sure that your applying seam actually. Even this one, looking at this, I'm thinking, man, this angled one, that's a risk. If I leave the texture, I want it to be down. UV, seam, got two seams. Every model is different. Every model wants a seam somewhere else. No one answer fits all here. I'm sorry for that, but that is the fix. So now I'm just going to go back through it, like new. So just like we did before, guys. So in nice and tight, like some things you know you want sections. You know, it's understand its relative linked flat face. Not sure 100% why. Probably has something to do with the 5 textured. Check my. I see that C-Bay has messaged me and said, how would we unselect if we don't notice we selected it? But yeah, we did already cover that. Glad that we covered that. Again, in case you forgot it, control. Got our selection on. Select. I found that zooming in lowers the amount of time that it would potentially if the model's slowing down. Again, I'm juggling 10,000 verts right now, 3,700,000 and 3,700,000. Well, I'm kind of causing my own punishment. I could just delete a couple of these, make them up, but trying to demonstrate can be done. Keeping in mind, you don't have to select everything. You can select quite a bit by just doing. We'll do that next. Select link to that face. Now it's going to go everything relative to the have. Pretty good work too. This guy, I could just add one little thing. I should be able to select linked all of them. Grab one, come in here, here, select. Dang good. Select, linked. Now we're getting close enough to where after maybe a couple more, they'll be able to the plus I control plus or add to get them. Make sure that we select. Apologize to those that are watching this time. Very even what situation look have control again. Looking around, that looks fine. I hit select, linked that face, pull, and then plus on the number pad. Liking what I'm looking at. Obviously, you want to be very concerned. Hang here. I'm gonna hit control minus. I know that we've cut this connection right here. Take that hit to risk trying to think it's good. I'm gonna go ahead and add a new vertex group. App round. Hit enter. Hit assign. Thing is ready to unwrap. App. All our bankers. Million years. But with a seam taken away considerable amount of the math. Hey, this right here, this part of the previous geometry, factor in just this as its own thing. Just this guy over here as thing. Don't consider. What happens when we do this? Object mode. Oh, it's probably going to add all modifiers every time you go in. Probably when. All the more reason to work on just one model at a so, like it's a fresh model. Modifiers, add, deform, New. V. Wrap around V2. Take a look at it, just as it is, just now. What it's doing. It is wrapping around functionally correctly. We'll see to what degree accurate, but definitely hit all a no mid level like front textures. Thing small. Thing that we'll have to make to 20. So you will see your seams do exactly what I told you. You have these little lines where the textures repeat. So where the other steps that I discussed come, which is know your minimum XY, know your number of repeat XY, and know your axis, and determine how best to fit your texture into where those might want to consider. So for something like this, honestly, what you might want to consider is a model texture that doesn't have as much and hide. Apparently, hitting 20 is causing it again. Totally powerful computer should be able to handle it. Isn't. The 0.5 gigs of VRAM, 7 gigs of system. You also need to know that it does a lot of internal to your file backups. Might be doing something during. Now we're good. Start messing with this. There's one easy axis. Have it wrap around that way. Notice we have the ability to go all the way around. Drop that. So we have a better understanding of what we're looking at. We do have it coherent. It's not stretching it. It's not. Oh, guys, right? Let's see. Find a good. Actually, like it. That's what I meant with that reap. The sweet spot. It doesn't even look like there's a. That's what's hunting. And like that one there. That would be another sweet. We can get rid of that little guy. I don't hate that either. Yeah, this would be a pretty decent candidate for that. You'll notice that with fuller, busier textures, a lot less of. I go to 1 and 1, and we flip this out for this big Hawaiian texture. That line really doesn't mean near. It's trying to be, especially if we're going to do the other as Hawaiian, then no one's going to be paying attention to tiny imperfection there. But I will be touching on how to. And with more detailed, keep in mind this is a clock 19. That is going to be very hard to actually that detail in. That probably wouldn't be worth fixing at all. That's fine. So that is the importance of seams, but promised we're going to address this. I want to fix that little. Get one that's like nearly perfect, but we hate that guy. Let's grab something nice and diamond. Diamond plating is actually having a nice repeat that. We're gonna add some strength to it, and we're gonna get more and more annoyed at this until we have. Live with that for now. Not my there. If you guys were looking, not, but if this guy set as it is, have to edit it and then edit it using Alt mode. So say that we love this, it's perfect, whatever. I go ahead and fire, add a modifier, generate, decimate, 0.17, enter on your key. Eye on these million monitor. Friendly reminder, this will take a while. Any computer, not your computer. Back when I first started, when I had a i7 5th gen, for some reason, I would decimate a full texture, done at 0.1. I would hit decimate. I would just like walk into the kitchen, being about a minute. Great. So with this thing being done, worth mentioning, keeps all these properties. That's not we're gonna do. Decimated. We can export desktop, Paragon, Diamond, Plate, not fixed. We're gonna click on selection only. Find that we have all these other projects in here. I don't have selection only selected. I'm gonna just shit out every single STL and not decimated, which is not gonna work. It's gonna be like probably, if I were to guess, like a half gigabytes of STL. Bad time. So if I export this STL, go rather quickly actually. Yep, good, good. I'm gonna ask yourself, do I want to? I wouldn't bother with this because I don't think that a slide can catch that. But we're gonna pretend that you have the world detailed printer. How to fix. Much care for these other textures. Just close Blender entirely. Save anything. Dump it all out. Start fresh. Have that STL. Fix it. So project out. Crap. Delete it. Add that 0. Hit back. File. L. Have the file in. You know what? I forgot to check. Our 60 megabytes. Much bigger file, but that. So same as before. View, hit G, bring it to geometry. Kept our orientation before sculpt mode. Because I'm not going to be texturing, be fixing it. Point one, and don't do texturing. And definitely don't do a point one. I'm going to open it up in edit mode. Just everything will freak out at bad time. Anyway, up your menus, a lot of options. One that gets me through my problems is smooth. For smoothing it, I'll push through to the side. Brush, front face out. Notice, shift, say, bring it up here. Have some of the guys point. Might want to have to hit them. Using my scroll down to slow down and get in all the different scroll all day, and you much more control. Right click, closing how you tackle. There are many other tools in Sculpt. I found the best. Shop around, figure out what works. It's worth mentioning that inverse. Flatten's gonna flatten. Control is hectic. Also consider it for, especially if you find out that you left something jagged. Picture is stuff finite of a. Again, I'm starting to get these pokies out here. Hit them from different. If you are running into issues with this, try zooming out and hitting bigger pieces. That doesn't work. The hammer is basically flattened. It'll get in there and it'll do damage for you. Right now, I've got one single vertex. Undo all of this, get back out. Not fixed yet. We're going to try hitting that piece. Or we can try going wave. May have done it for us. Some residual. I also, just for a sanity check, have to fix these. No chance in the world that Slicer is going to actually. So feel free to try to fix them. Fuck with them. It's just not. Nobody's going to see it. Tiny face. Especially after you death. Done all this. Straight back to what you are. Back over to object mode. Wrench, add, generate, decimate. Point one, because it's the inverse of the remesh that we did. Hit enter. On your faces. 10,008,000. Nation should down to 1 million. Um, when coming off of point one, it take much longer to decimate. So ask yourself before going into a sculpting and smooth whether or not you actually want time fix teeny tiny little faces. Maybe take that export, that non-fixed one, throw it in your slicer, see what it looks like. If it even makes sense to tackle. It might not. The question: 2 millimeter layer height and a meter not. If you're at all interested, you know whether or not Decimate is done. You can do other stuff on your computer. Task manager, clicking the. You want to monitor your RAM, memory, not your GPU. RAM is base and X location. RAM is the one that plummets. Also notice click bonding, completely acceptable, fine, mix-based application. It's still working. It's still fine. It's not freaking out. Just complete. Make it slower or faster, anything. Be a good indicator as to what you did before. Well, well, stop. Okay. Not fixed. File size. Not fixed. Reminder for 60 megabytes. 103 megabytes. Point one adds so much more detail. 100 megabytes is still nothing compared to the 700 megabyte to 1.2 gigabyte files that an undecimated one cause. That 100 megabytes still turns in 50. Still not really breaking the bank, but that is where you want to go if you want to fix it. The question you want to ask yourself before going in and fixing up those themes: is it worth the space? One without the fixed themes fixed, the 50 megabytes for the fixed one, 7 not fixed. So almost doubled it. I think that about wraps up everything that I wanted to do as part of this recording. If you have any questions for me, please hit me up on Instagram or X. Accounts can be found on siteunseen.com. As an invite to the GunCADemy Discord, the place other potential recordings may have. That's to all class every Friday, usually every Friday. We'll use the text chat to announce what class will be about. Want quick notes about that? The Discord's always set to locked. No, you don't have to put anything special. No, you don't have to get approved or invited. No, there's no text chats. No chat rooms for you to use without teachers. Only working because we don't allow people to chosen to keep it classroom hours only. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Be uploaded to the YouTube channel as well as the Odyssey.